Hi, I'm Towin. So, in the last challenge video I did Duskull on Y2 challenge mode, and it was painfully slow on the start, but with some cool moments in between. This time I'm doing another challenge on the first gen games, as I'll be trying to beat Pokemon Red with only Bug type moves. The Bug type is famous for being one of, if not the weakest of all types. This is more apparent on the first 3 gens where there's almost no Bug type moves. Which brings me to the next point, the moves. In Gen 1 there's only 4 Bug type moves. String Shot, which lowers the opponent's speed, Leech Life, a 20 base power move that recovers HP, Pin Missile, a 14 base power multi-hit move, and Twin Needle, a 25 base power move that always hits twice and can poison the opponent. Not only are they not good, but out of all of the Pokemon available, only 6 lines can learn at least one bug move. 5 if we only count attacking moves. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. The rules for the challenge are simple. I can only use bug type moves, so if I run out of power points for my bug moves, I lose the battle. No items during battle, game mode on set, and as an extra rule, I won't allow repeats on the team. So if I have a Beedrill on the team, I can't have another one. This is only to make the challenge more interesting. With that out of the way, let's start the run! I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Bulbasaur with Zubat. This might sound weird, but Zubat is the only Pokemon with a Bug type move right at the beginning. I obviously lose the first rival fight since I only have Leech Life, which by the way is the only Bug type move that Zubat will get. After getting the Pokédex, I move to Viridian Forest, where I catch a Weedle and a Caterpie. Now, they won't be useful right now, especially Caterpie since it only gets String Shot. But eventually, at level 20, Beedrill gets Twin Needle. It's going to take a while before getting it though. Next is the Brock fight, however, I stand no chance. The only Pokemon that can attack is Zubat with Leech Life, so I'll have to grind for a while considering that it only has 15 power points. I switch train for some time and eventually Weedle evolves into Kakuna and then into Beedrill. I kept training for a long time until either Zubat evolved or Beedrill got Twin Needle. I get Twin Needle first, so after I get it, I go and challenge Brock. But with my Beedrill being level 20, it was no problem at all. Geodude went down in 2 attacks, and Onix took 3. On the way to Mount Moon, I fight all the trainers on the way so that Beedrill can catch up to Zubat and for him to evolve. When I enter Mount Moon, Zubat reaches level 22 and evolves into Golbat. He's still not going to do that much damage, but it's better than nothing. Speaking of better than nothing, I can also get my 4th team member, Paras. He gets Leech Life at level 20, so until then he's useless. But it's something, I guess. Look, I already told you that the encounters were garbage, so let's just move on to the next important fight. Exiting Mount Moon, the easiest fight I can do is Misty, so I go and challenge her. I lead with Paras to get him some levels and Misty sends Staryu. I switch to Beedrill and she uses an Edge Defend. Twin Needle does half and gets her poison while a Water Gun does nothing, so another attack KOs her. Starmie comes out and I switch to Caterpie so that it gets knocked out and get a safe switch into Paras. I then switch into Golbat and Starmie hits him for almost half HP. Another Bubble Beam gets Golbat low and Leech Life does almost nothing, so he went down. I sent Beedrill once more and while Water Gun from her did decent damage, Twin Needle almost KOs her and gets the poison. So next turn, after she uses an Edge Defend, she goes down. No time for resting though, as after healing, there's a rival fight. He sends Pidgeotto and I lead with Golbat. This battle goes on for ages since Leech Life does almost nothing. But Golbat also has decent defenses and recovery, so after many turns and almost running out of power points, Pidgeotto gets knocked out. Next is Abra, but a lucky crit Leech Life takes him out. Rattata is after, and since I ran out of Leech Lives, I have to switch. So I go into Caterpie to get a safe switch into Beedrill, who with a single Twin Needle takes care of Rattata. Last is Charmander. Twin Needle does half and he misses a Growl. So after another attack, Blue gets defeated. I get a ticket for the SSN and make my way to Vermilion City. On the way, Paras gets to level 20 and learns Leech Life. And on the SSN, he reaches level 24 and evolves into Parasect. After getting him and clearing all of the trainers left, I decide to do the rival fight. Like last time, he leads with Pidgeotto and I send Golbat. The battle goes mostly the same with the exception that I had to switch a couple of times to get rid of the sand attacks. But like last time, Golbat ended up winning. He then sends Raticate. A quick attack from him does a bit and I use my last Leech Life, critting and doing close to half. I'm forced to switch, so I send Caterpie to go into Parasect. Surprisingly, he's strong enough to not take that much damage from Quick Attack and do as much damage as Golbat Leech Life without critting. So after 2 Leech Lives, Raticate goes down. Next is Kadabra, but he also goes down easily to a single Leech Life. I might have underestimated Parasect's power. That's until Blue sends Charmeleon and 3-shots him without doing that much damage. I send Beedrill and Twinneedle does like a third while Ember from him does a ton. But after tanking another Ember and 2 Twinneedles, I get the victory. I get the HM for Cut and head to the Electric Gym to fight Lieutenant Surge. He sends Voltorb and I lead with Parasect. He hits a Screech to lower my defense and Leech Life does close to half. A tackle from him does nothing even with the Screech and another Leech Life gets him to the red. So next turn, he faints. Pikachu is sent and Surge uses an edge speed while Leech Life almost gets an OHKO. A quick attack also does nothing, so he goes down. Finally is the Ace Raichu. Even Thundershock does nothing and Leech Life does a quarter, so after a couple more attacks, Surge gets defeated. Parasect is really proving to be useful, and he wasn't even that over-leveled. I make my way through Rock Tunnel and here I thought that I will have issues with the trainer with 2 Geodudes and a Graveler. But turns out that if you have more than 3 Pokemon and wait for them to use Self-Destruct, it's not that hard. This lets me get to Lavender Town and subsequently Celadon City. This is the location where I can fight my 5th team member, Eevee. I immediately evolve it into Jolteon, which is actually the new team member. But he's not going to be able to fight until he learns Spin Missile, which is at level 48. For reference, Giovanni's Rhydon during his gym battle is level 50. So it's going to take some time for him to join. But he should be a valuable team member when it happens. I go into the grass gym and while fighting the trainers, Beedrill reaches level 30 and learns Spin Missile. I honestly prefer Twinneedle for the consistent damage, but with luck, it can do more damage and it's more power points, so it's a welcome addition. Erika fight. She leads with Victreebel and I send Jolteon for switch training. I switch to Beedrill while she misses a wrap, so with a 4x super effective Twinneedle, I get an OHKO. Next is Tangela and I switch to Jolteon and then again into Beedrill. Thanks to a crit, Tangela also goes down to a single hit. Finally is Vileplume. I do the same switch thing again and she also faints to a single Twinneedle. Easy fight. Next is the Giovanni fight on the game corner. I don't play around this time and lead with Beedrill while he sends Onix. A crit Twinneedle does more than half and he just goes for a guard specs, so another attack defeats him. Afterwards is Rhyhorn. Twinneedle is doing like a third while Rhyhorn's Horn Drill isn't doing much, so after a couple of turns, he goes down. Last is the Ace Kangaskhan, and to my surprise, Twinneedle doesn't do that much to her. She counters with a Comet Punch that does a lot, so I'm in a tough spot. Next turn, she starts building up Rage, which is terrible for Beedrill's multi-hit moves. I get her to the red before I faint and I send Golbat, and after a couple of Leech Lives, she goes down. Defeating Giovanni grants me the Sylph Scope, so I have to go back to Lavender Town and challenge Blue. Like usual, I send Golbat to fight Pidgeotto. It takes a long time and almost all of my Leech Life power points, but Pidgeotto goes down. Next is Execute. A Leech Life takes most of his HP as he misses a Hypnosis. However, thanks to the sand attacks from Pidgeotto, I miss my attack next turn and he puts me to sleep. Execute doesn't deal that much damage, so when I wake up, I KO him easily. After that is Gyarados. My last Leech Life misses again as he lands a Hydro Pump. I'm forced to switch, so I go into Caterpie for Parasect to get a safe entry. I only get him to do some cheap damage since I need to save as much HP on Beedrill as possible. I get Gyarados to the red and Parasect goes down. I send Beedrill like I mentioned and a Twinneedle is enough for him to get the KO. Next is Kadabra and a single Twinneedle is enough to get an OHKO, so last is the Ace Charmeleon. I try Pin Missile to see if it'll do more damage and it doesn't do that much, as he counters with Ember doing a quarter. I switch to Twinneedle and it thankfully crits getting him to the red, so with one more attack, I defeat Blue. That fight was closer than I thought. I can already see myself having to grind for the fight against him on the Sylph building. After getting through the tower and defeating some rocket grunts, I get the Poké Flute. This allows me to get my 6th and final team member, Venonat. He doesn't get a bug move until level 27, so I'll have to switch train him for some time. I fight every trainer I can find to get everyone leveled up, since like I said, I'm kind of afraid of the next rival fight. Eventually, Venonat reaches level 27 and learns Leech Life, and then level 31 to evolve into Venomoth. With everyone around level 37, I go and challenge Koga. First is Venomoth against Koffing. A crit Leech Life does close to half as he does nothing with Tackle. Another attack gets him to a third as he lowers my accuracy with Smokescreen. However, I land another crit to make Koffing faint. Next is Muk, and thanks to him constantly raising his evasion, I miss many times, which leads to me fainting, but not before getting him on the red. I set Golbat, and after many uses of Leech Life, I managed to defeat Muk. The second Koffing comes out, and it only takes a few Leech Lives to knock him out. So last is Weezing, but after missing Leech Life, he decides to use Self-Destruct to grant me my 5th badge. Funny enough, it doesn't even KO Golbat. I have to beat Silph Company if I want to get access to the Psychic Gym, so I go and try to see how I fare against Blue. But it went so bad. I had to throw my whole team just to beat the Pidgeot. The strategy of using Golbat isn't working anymore since it got more bulk by evolving. We're closing levels and Leech Life isn't strong at all. I threw Venomoth and Parasect to do some cheap damage, but they also weren't doing much. In the end, I sent Beedrill, and it was only thanks to the damage dealt by the previous team members that I won. I easily took down Execute, but Gyarados is another Pokemon that resists Bug-type moves. Okay, I obviously need more levels, so I go and fight every new trainer I have access to. This gets everyone around level 42. I know this is still too low, so I try my luck with Blaine since he's famous for not being that hard. But the problem is that they can hit me super effectively and that I easily run out of power points. I defeat 2 of his Pokemon, but there was no way I could beat the Rapidash and Arcanine that were left. So I guess I'm just going to grind everyone to level 48 where Jolteon can learn Pin Missile. I do that and challenge Blaine again. I start with Golbat against Growlithe. This is because Growlithe has agility, and it sees a super effective move against Golbat, so it's the only move that it'll use against it. I get him to the red, however I run out of power points, so I'm forced to switch to Parasect, who after taking 2 embers that leave him almost on the red, can KO the Growlithe. Next is Ponyta, but he lands a Fire Spin that locks Parasect and knock him out. I send Venomoth, and he only manages to get Ponyta to half before falling to Fire Spin. Beedrill is sent, and he only takes a bit of damage before Twin Needle KOs Ponyta. Afterwards is Rapidash, and it also has Fire Spin, but he only manages to land it once before falling to a couple of Twin Needles. Last is the Ace Arcanine, and Beedrill is dealing no damage to him while he lands a Fire Blast to easily defeat him. So last is Jolteon, but surprisingly, Pin Missile was doing less damage than I was expecting. Every time it hit, it only took a pixel away from the HP bar. This was made even worse when he got burned, so in the end, I couldn't defeat him. I tried the blue fight and it goes way better. I start with the classic Golbat vs Pidgeot. I chip away his health with Leech Life, but because of the sand attacks, I sometimes have to switch to Jolteon to get rid of the accuracy drops. In the end, I luckily beat Pidgeot with my last Leech Life. Next is Execute. I switch to Parasect and he gets poisoned, but a single Leech Life OHKOs him. After that is Gyarados, and because he kept picking Leer instead of Dragon Rage or Bite, he went down to Parasect's Leech Life. Alakazam comes out, but it's obviously an OHKO. So last comes the Ace Charizard, and I only managed to land 2 Leech Lives before falling to his fire moves. I sent Jolteon with the hopes of doing some cheap damage and getting him to use Rage. So when it happens, I switch to Beedrill to do more damage and hopefully poison him. I get him to a Sliver, but don't get the poison. But with the help of Jolteon, I beat my rival's Charizard. Next is the Giovanni Seal fight. Golbat KOs both Nidorino and Kangaskhan, but for Rhyhorn I run out of power points, so I switch to Parasect to defeat him. Last is Nidoqueen, but she goes down easily to my super effective block moves. The Psychic Gym is next and I fight every trainer in there, not because I don't think I can beat Sabrina. In fact, it might be one of the easiest fights, but because I need the experience for the Blaine fight later. When I challenged her, it went exactly like I said, but This battle made clear to me that Jolteon isn't as strong as I hoped. Like, I need a 5-hit Beam Missile to KO Mr. Mime when I'm 11 levels higher. I try Blaine again, but at best I can get to Arcanine, so I go and get everyone to level 50. I also decide to finally train Caterpie, since I realized that even though it only has String Shot, it might have some utility for the slower Pokemon on the team, like Parasect and maybe Beedrill. So with that, Caterpie evolves into Metapod and then into Butterfree. He gets to level 33 when everyone reaches level 50 and I try the Blaine fight once more. But Arcanine with Fire Blast and Takedown is really troublesome, and my attacks aren't dealing enough damage. He also has Super Potions left, so if he feels like it, he can heal Arcanine and negate all the damage I've done thus far. Level 52, I'm getting closer but still no luck. Level 55, I finally get a good run. First is Golbat against Growlithe, and Golbat ends up winning like the other attempts. For Ponyta, I switch to Venomoth and also end up winning. As for Rapidash, Venomoth does nothing thanks to Blaine's Super Potions. But while he was healing, I went to Butterfree to lower his speed. However, when I went back to Venomoth, he ended up fainting. So I go into Parasect, who thanks to the previous String Shot from Butterfree can outspeed. But he only manages to get him to the red before fainting. I then send Jolteon, and after taking a bit of damage, he can knock out Rapidash. Finally is the Ace Arcanine and I manage to land a bunch of Beam Missiles. But thanks to his constant healing, Jolteon ends up fainting while leaving him on a sliver. His efforts don't go to waste however, as thanks to this, Beedrill can come out and put an end to Blaine's Arcanine, finally getting me the 7th badge. Next is the last fight against Giovanni, but with all the grinding, Beedrill was able to solo the entire fight using Twin Needle. So afterwards is the rival. Golbat goes out against Pidgeot and I got him to the red before having to switch because I ran out of power points, so I sent Venomoth to finish him off. He also takes out Rhyhorn and Execute. Gyarados comes out and Leech Life runs out of power points, so I sent Butterfree to lower Gyarados' speed. When Butterfree goes down, I send Parasect, who can barely take him out. After that it's Alakazam, but he's faster, so Parasect gets easily taken out. I send Beedrill and take him out with a single Twin Needle, so last is Charizard. I switch to Venomoth to get a safe switch to Jolteon to bait the rage. And it works, so I go back to Beedrill hoping to get the poison with Twin Needle. I don't get it and only manage to take half his health, so Jolteon is out again, but he deals no damage against him and go down. I could keep trying until I get the poison, but if I'm having this much trouble against him here, then I most definitely have to grind for the champion battle. So I get everyone but Butterfree to level 58 and try again. The fight goes mostly the same until I get to Charizard. I try to bait the rage with Golbat and Jolteon and they take a lot of damage. But in the end, he locks himself in. I switch to Beedrill and this time I get the poison. I get him to half and Beedrill goes down. I switch for a few turns between Golbat and Venomoth to get some poison damage before Golbat also goes down. So I go into Parasect to get more chip damage. When he gets low, I switch it to Venomoth, but he heals with a potion, so I need to waste more turns. I switch back to Parasect, but he goes down, so I send my last attacking Pokemon, Jolteon. Beam Missile is doing nothing as always, but thanks to all the damage from the poison, Charizard gets defeated. This battle took 13 minutes. And just look at the state of my team. I definitely need to train them if I want to win the champion fight. I make my way through Victory Road and reach the league. Now, I'm sure this isn't going to be their final level, but the final team is my starter Golbat with Leech Life, Beedrill with Twin Needle, Beam Missile and String Shot, Butterfree with String Shot, Parasect with Leech Life, Jolteon with Beam Missile, and Venomoth with Leech Life. Let's see if I can beat the league. Okay, we have a problem. I just beat Lorelei, but I won't bother to narrate it, because when I got to Bruno, I ran out of power points on all of my Pokemon. I don't have that many power point restoring items and I'm at the second Elite 4 member. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to level up everyone to level 60 and then use the rare candies that I've collected to get Beedrill to level 70. He's my strongest Pokemon and the others are falling behind thanks to their weak moves. This also helps with the power points problem since I only have to worry about one of them. Just in case, I'm going to save before giving Beedrill the rare candies in case I have to grind more. First is Lorelei. I sent Beedrill against Dugong and thanks to her using Rest on the first turn, I could easily KO her with Twin Needle. Next is Cloyster and he does some damage with Spike Cannon, but goes down to Beedrill as well. As for Slowbro and Jeans, since they are both Psychic type, my bug moves are super effective, so there was no problem there. Last is Lapras, and I managed to get her to the red before fainting, so I sent Venomoth to finish her off with 2 Leech Lives. Second is Bruno. Usually he's an easy fight, but because he resists my moves, he can stall me out of power points. First is his Onix against Parasect. He takes almost all of his Leech Life power points, but Onix ends up falling. Next is Hitmonchan. I switched to Venomoth and I managed to get him to a quarter before running out of power points, so I go into Beedrill to knock him out. Hitmonlee comes out but also ends up falling to Beedrill's attacks. The second Onix is out and I waste a lot of power points on him before he starts using Rage. So I switch to Golbat to start doing chip damage, and after a couple of Leech Lives, he goes down. Last is Machamp. I send Jolteon and do a bit of damage before falling to submission. Since it's a move that does recoil, I start switching back and forth between Parasect and Golbat. When Parasect goes down, I start doing the same with Butterfree and Golbat, but my patience runs out and I end up knocking out Machamp with all of the Leech Lives that I had left on Golbat. Third is Agatha. Beedrill goes against Gengar and does a lot of damage to her before she switches to Golbat. I do half to her and she confuses me. I hit myself for massive damage, but next turn, I KO the Golbat. Gengar is out once more, but goes down immediately. Haunter is next, and Twin Needle gets really close to an Oko as she confuses me again. I switch to Jolteon, and she also switches to Arbok. Pin Missile gets her to half, and she misses a glare. Another attack gets close, and she uses Acid to do a bit, so a single Pin Missile defeats her. Haunter is out again, but also goes down. So last is the second Gengar. I keep doing damage until she confuses me, so I switch to Beedrill and finish her off with a Twin Needle. Last of the Elite Four is Lance. Jolteon goes against Gyarados, but it's doing so little damage that by the time it goes down, Gyarados only lost a quarter of his HP. I sent Parasect to use all of his Leech Life power points left and managed to get him to half. I then sacrifice Butterfree to get a safe switch into Beedrill, who takes him out with a couple of attacks. The two Dragonairs then go down easily thanks to them spamming Agility since they think it's super effective. So next is Aerodactyl. Because he missed 2 takedowns and a lucky crit, I defeated him without much trouble. So last is Dragonite. He also spammed Agility and Barrier. However, because of that, my attacks weren't dealing that much damage. But I get a lucky poison with Twin Needle. So by constantly switching between Golbat and Beedrill, I could knock him out without wasting that many power points. Finally is my rival. But to make the long story short, I couldn't defeat him. I threw my entire team at his Pidgeot, and because he got rid of Agility, I don't have a safe strategy against him like with Golbat. So my team went down one by one. Beedrill managed to knock him out and even managed to get to his penultimate Pokemon Gyarados. But Beedrill was too worn out at that point and ended up falling. Maybe if I get Beedrill to level 80? Nope, Charizard is still way too strong. What if I trade Jolteon to level 70? Again, no. I got all the way to Charizard again and managed to poison him with the first Twin Needle. But when he was on the red, he used a full restore to cure the poison and get back to full health. Okay, new plan. Train Jolteon to level 80 and the rest to level 65. I do it and finally, after hours of trying, I defeat Charizard. You wanna know the crazy thing? I mostly used Beedrill to KO him, so I didn't need to train the other 4. Jesus Christ, was that last part absolutely awful. Like, I knew going into this challenge that it was going to be hard at the beginning, but I didn't expect that I was going to have to grind that much at the end. After the first gym, it was pretty fun, but again, the hours spent training for the first gym, the 7th gym, and the league were excruciating. I'll probably do it again on other games since they introduce more moves and the Pokemon selection also increases. But for now, I think I'm going back to the Pokemon Y2 Challenge mode. Speaking of, next time I'll try Pokemon Y2 Challenge mode with the Twin Bird Pokemon Doduo. He's the definition of a glass cannon with high attack and speed but low defenses, so I have high hopes for it. If you want to see more of my content, you can check my Shiny Professor Oak Challenge playlist, that's on screen. Or, if you want to see something more like what you just watched, you can check the Challenge Runs playlist, that's also on screen. Anyways, that's all I have for now. See ya!